Okay, let's unpack this. When you think about getting a really secure crypto cold wallet, your mind probably goes straight to, well, it needs a screen, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It feels like a basic requirement, doesn't it? That little display for verifying things.
Exactly. But what if I told you there's this wallet, the Tangem, and it completely ditches the screen?
Okay, interesting.
And get
Okay.
this, they're claiming it hasn't been hacked ever in 7 years.
Wow. Okay, 7 years is a long time in crypto.
Hmm.
That definitely challenges the standard thinking. We've sort of accepted that screen equals security.
Totally. So that's what we're getting into in this deep dive,
Hmm.
the Tangem wallet. We're looking at why they went screenless and how they argue it's still secure.
We've got some material outlining their security model, right?
Yep. And our mission really is to understand if and how this screenless approach can actually work. What are the benefits? What are the trade-offs?
Consider this your shortcut to figuring out this pretty different take on crypto security.
Before we jump into Tangem specifically, it's probably worth remembering why screens became the norm in the first place.
Good point. That display traditionally was your offline check, wasn't it? To see the address, the amount, before you approve the transaction.
Right. It was meant to protect you from, well, all sorts of nasty stuff on your computer or phone. Keyloggers.
Clipboard hijacking.
Mhm.
That's a sneaky one where they swap the address you copied.
Yeah, or just general malware, ransomware, even those dodgy smart contract exploits. The screen was your independent confirmation.
Your sanity check, separate from the potentially compromised device you initiated the transaction on.
But Tangem, they went a completely different way. Their whole thing is simplicity and portability.
So, like, no battery, no cables.
Exactly. It's just a card. It gets power via NFC when you tap it against your phone, like contactless payment.
Okay, so the reliance is heavily on that NFC connection and presumably a mobile app.
That's the core of it. The sources say the card itself is basically just the secure storage. The brains, if you like, are in the mobile app.
And the key thing, the private key, where does that live?
It stays offline, inside the card, in what they call a highly secure EAL6 Plus certified chip.
Ah, EAL6 plus ML. That's a serious certification. That's like banking card level security. Passports too, I think.
Yeah, banking, military applications, they really emphasize that level of hardware security. Rigorous testing against sophisticated attacks.
So the trade-off is no screen, but you get this very high-spec secure chip and presumably a very secure app to interact with it.
Precisely. Which leads us nicely into Tangem's 5 pillars of mobile app security. This is basically their answer to the lack of a physical screen.
Okay, let's break those down. What's pillar number one?
Data protection and privacy, so securing the data within the app.
Right, so standard stuff like encrypting sensitive info, I assume.
Yes, encryption's there, but they also specifically mention actively blocking that clipboard hijacking we talked about.
Okay, that's crucial if the app is your only visual confirmation point.
And they isolate sensitive data within the app so other apps on your phone can't, snoop on it.
Makes sense. What's pillar two?
Application and runtime integrity. This sounds like the app policing itself.
Self-checking, like making sure the app code hasn't been messed with.
Exactly. It verifies its own code. If it spots anything fishy, it just won't run.
Smart. Does that include checks for things like rooted or jailbroken phones? Those can be riskier environments.
Yep. It refuses to run in debug mode or on rooted jailbroken devices. And they also have measures against runtime attacks and trying to reverse engineer the app.
Okay, so protecting the app itself from interference. Pillar three.
Secure communication. This is about the link between the card and the app when you tap it, protecting that data transfer.
Critical.
Yeah.
Especially without a screen on the card to show what's being sent. So encryption again?
Yeah, TLS encryption for the data tunnel, but also something called certificate pinning.
Ah, pinning. That locks the app to only trust Tangem's specific server certificate, right?
Mm-hmm.
Makes man-in-the-middle attacks harder.
Correct. And they also use certificate transparency, which adds another layer against dodgy certificates. Basically, layers to prevent anyone intercepting that communication.
Good. Okay, four.
User interface and input security, protecting you while you're actually using the app.
How so? Like what you type in.
Partly. They disable system things like autocomplete and spell check for sensitive fields. You wouldn't want your seed phrase auto-suggested, would you?
Definitely not.
But here's a really clever bit. They block screenshots and screen recording when sensitive stuff is on screen.
Oh, interesting. Like if you're viewing your seed phrase.
Exactly. The source mentioned if you try to screen record your seed phrase recovery, the video playback just shows a blank screen for that part.
Huh. That's a neat trick to prevent accidental leaks. Very relevant without a hardware screen backup.
Right. Okay, last one, pillar 5. Architecture and operational security. This is more the behind-the-scenes stuff.
The foundations,
Oh.
like how they manage access and things.
Yeah. They use secure tokens for temporary access, so no stored passwords to steal. They follow the least privilege principle, meaning the app only asks for permissions it absolutely needs.
Standard best practices, but good to hear.
Plus, regular independent code audits, automated vulnerability checks, and they even have a bug bounty program.
Okay, so paying ethical hackers to find flaws, that shows confidence. So they've clearly put a lot of thought into locking down that app.
Definitely seems that way. But let's circle back to the screen itself, or the lack of it. The material we looked at had an interesting take on the risks with the screen versus without.
Ah, yeah, this is where it gets counterintuitive again. They argue going screenless actually avoids certain hardware attacks.
Exactly, like power or glitch attacks. These
Mhm.
exploit vulnerabilities when a device boots up.
Right, but Tangem only powers up via NFC.
So that whole attack vector is essentially gone. No boot sequence to glitch.
That's a fair point, actually.
Yeah.
What else? Microcontrollers?
Yeah, this was interesting. Apparently, many screened wallets use separate, sometimes less secure, chips just to run the display.
And those extra chips could be weak points.
That's the argument. More hardware, more potential attack surfaces. Tangem uses just that one super secure EAL6 Plus chip for everything critical. No separate, potentially weaker display controller.
So they're simplifying the hardware to reduce the places an attacker could potentially target. Less is more, security-wise.
That seems to be their philosophy. The lack of a screen isn't just a cost-saving measure. It's framed as a deliberate security design choice.
With its own set of advantages, even if it means relying entirely on the app's security pillars for verification.
So when you look at the whole picture, the high security chip, the NFC activation, the 5 pillars of app security, the argument is that it creates a really robust system, even without that traditional screen check.
And potentially, as they argue, maybe even more secure in some ways
Yeah.
by avoiding certain hardware vulnerabilities common in screen devices.
Plus, there's the user-friendliness angle they push. No tiny screen menus, no battery worries, just tap and go.
Yeah, that low learning curve could be a big deal for people new to crypto, who might find the typical cold wallet a bit, well, intimidating.
Sometimes complexity can lead to mistakes, right? Fiddling with buttons, misreading the small screen.
A simpler interface might actually reduce user error, which is often a weak link in security. It's an interesting trade-off.
So the core takeaway here seems to be that Tangem offers a fundamentally different security model. They've shifted the trust, maybe, away from a hardware screen and onto that secure element combined with a heavily fortified mobile app.
It definitely challenges the conventional wisdom, doesn't it? Makes you think about what's truly essential for keeping your crypto safe.
Which leads to a good question for you listening. Does this Tangem approach, this screenless idea, make you reconsider what you thought was non-negotiable for cold storage security?
Yeah, what parts of their model, the app focus, the EAL6 Plus chip, the NFC power, give you the most confidence? Or, conversely, what still gives you pause?
It's definitely a different way of doing things. Definitely worth thinking about.
Absolutely. And if you want to really get into the nitty-gritty, the technical details, do check out the source material we used. The link should be available.
Yeah, definitely recommend it if this has piqued your interest. It's a fascinating case study in crypto security design.